Hi guys, welcome to Caribbean Developer Week. I'm Natalie O'Brien and today I'm with Ainsworth Spence, and today we're going to be talking about learning the value as a team player, which is going to be a great topic. Welcome. Welcome all. Ainsworth, the floor
Hi.
is all yours.
Hi, everyone. How are you doing today? I hope this Friday catches you either being super productive or ready to learn something new. Before I start, I do want to thank you for the opportunity in being able to share my experience. To give you a little bit of background, and this will lead into the discussion in my presentation. I've been a self-taught developer, starting hand coding HTML and PHP. Well, there was no PHP then, but HTML for probably about, maybe about 17, 18 years ago, so around 99. And that led me into tech. It wasn't my first foray into it. I'd started off in school studying marine biology, and we needed a website for an organization that I was in, and I said, well, I'll do it. To which then I said, I've never done it before. I grabbed a book, picked it up, and started reading and reading and reading and reading to learn how to actually hand code, and eventually, created my first website. That led me into more advanced technology and various roles. And that's the point that I'd like to start from then, is understanding your skills and understanding how that translates into being a team player. Because a lot of times people think that the skills that they have don't necessarily always work for being a great leader or just a follower. Realistically, everyone has a myriad of skills. God's given us everything up and down. Some people are great at cooking. Some people are great at negotiating. Some people are great at organizing. You need everything. And not by yourself, you need everything, but you need everything as a team. And a lot of times those roles can get inverted, where once you are a follower, now you have to be a leader because there's a gap in your team and you're the one that has to put that hat on and become either that salesperson or that lead developer, because you were the secondary developer and now the lead developer is gone. Understanding your ability to be able to translate the skills that you have, whatever particular skills those might be, into a good team player really is the crux of getting ahead. And ahead as a team, not ahead as you as an individual, because if you do well, it doesn't necessarily mean your team does well. But if you do well for your team can do better and your team can do well. To bring a poignant example, for those that are Caribbean, I know most people saw the Argentina game, and Messi can't do everything by himself. He needs other players on that team to be able to step up. He might have a bad day one day, and he's going to need that support from other players. You can't get so starstruck by someone else's talent or skills to think that your talent or skills can be lesser, or even your talent and skills aren't effective in getting projects and work done. I'll give this as an example. If you have a bad relationship with someone on your team and they need you to send an email, if you're focused on what everyone needs and you're only focused on your need with, man, I don't like that person, I'll send that email later, you're not hampering them, you're hampering everybody else. A good team player knows that I have to do this, not for me. We got to be dispassionate about things, especially when it comes to development, because things move so quickly that your hesitation to send that email or make that follow-up phone call or even address a lingering situation could mean the difference between your success or your team's failure. And being a good teammate really has to do with your ability to see what everybody else needs and play that role. Sometimes you're going to be at the front of the pack. Sometimes you're going to be at the back. Sometimes you'll be in the middle. don't look at those places and positions as if they define who you are. Great leaders that see the larger picture don't mind to clean up in the office. Great leaders that see their position don't mind to spend a couple of minutes extra helping out somebody that is either subordinate to them or above them, because if you're looking at what the whole team needs, that has to be the first focus, what the whole entire team needs. I've worked in various positions from software development on several platforms. I gave you a quick little example of my start back in '99. I've worked on a music streaming platform. That was my first startup. And that was me coming in a role as a young gentleman, being probably one of the few minorities in that business, and learning that even though I had a lot of technology, I had a lot of savvy, I had a lot of understanding of where things need to go, I had to play a little bit of a role back because I had to learn from those that were in the industry. It was not my first industry because it was the music industry. And I said, okay, I don't really know this, but let me learn. You have to understand that learning has to be something that can be translated into your skills and then continue to learn. You can take those same skills that you learned from one individual, from one industry, and then translate it to a secondary industry, because ultimately you're never going to be set in the one thing that you're doing. This isn't the Chrysler or GM where you get this one job and you'll stay in this job till your grandkids have grandkids. The tech industry, people move. People move from one side to the next. They're either going to be in a new startup or they're going to move into a more traditional industry that now needs your skills and technology. And all of those have to move with you. Your people skills are a huge piece of that teamwork makeup that helps you understand when to jump in and when to step back. So within this my music industry experience, I had to learn from lawyers, entertainment lawyers. I had to learn from actual musicians, what their pain points were, how they got paid, what the industry typically did. And I had to educate myself on what it meant to understand where the music industry was going, and then develop our product based on what those needs were. At the same time, we were still getting pulled in 10 different directions internally in the company, so that I had to then focus on my teamwork within my group, teamwork outside company to company, teamwork to other developers that we had subbed work out to, and mix all three of those things together to keep a successful workflow going. People are like glue. If you have a good relationship with other people, that can bring people into you. If you have a bad relationship with other people, it will push people away from you. And you have to understand that when you're dealing with different personalities, people of different cultures, people in different time zones, your job is not to tell people what is happening. Your job is to understand, because effective communication as a team player is key to that. We want to say that if we go at it with just yourself, then ultimately it will still just be you. You have to build an accord with people. You have to build capacity that isn't just yourself. I'm not an entertainment lawyer. So when we were researching the product and figuring out what we had to do, I had to learn from the entertainment lawyers on here's how it's typically structured. These are where the music industry gets paid. Here's how the artist gets paid. Here's the rights associated with this region. Here's the rights associated with this region. And then understand that if I had a question, I could go back to those people. Just because I got some information doesn't mean I had all the information, and that would be hubris. You don't want to have that where you're thinking that I know everything. You actually want to be able to say, I know enough to be dangerous, but let me go back and actually get the expert to be able to tell me what I need so that I can do my job effectively. You have to ask Don't be afraid to ask. A lot of times, and I see this often, that, well, I don't want to cede some of my ground. I don't want to give away some of my little bit of knowledge, because then they'll think then I'll be replaced. That's almost the opposite of what you should be thinking. Knowledge doesn't work if we don't share it. The whole point of being an expert in something and having knowledge about a particular subject or particular area is so that you can use it to help other people and teach. That really should be the goal. You don't get professors that say, well, I'm not going to tell you. Professor wants to tell you. Somebody that understands the subject is more than willing to give somebody the knowledge and the expertise so that they can find their own path, but so that they can actually do it successfully. Within this platform, we faced a lot of struggles, and we had to go outside of the company and seek other expertise and expert help. That's the only way that we could do it. Sometimes people think that the team that they've built, that's the team. We've got it. Everyone has the answers. Everyone's the expert. Everyone knows what they're doing. Ultimately, that's a falsehood, because no one is 100% expert on everything. No one knows 100% of everything. And at most, we know a lot about some things and something, a lot about nothing. And you can't let that be the thing that stops you from asking for help or seeking help, and ultimately speaking out when you believe that something is important enough that you have to talk about it, that you're empowered to do so. A good team member doesn't sit back and go, well, it's really not my thing. It's his thing. So if he fails, whatever. That works if your organization is gigantic. If you have a humongous organization and you kind of don't care about how other people get along because they're not necessarily in your command chain, or they're not really quote unquote directly related to you, you can believe that, but ultimately it does end up affecting you. Because let's say you like I gave the email example, you don't send that email out to that person just because you don't like them or you're mad at them. What you end up actually doing is hampering and hurting that other side of the organization that actually needs some kind of information. You can't be the bottleneck for that information if it's information that the company needs, because whatever you're doing as an organization, you're responsible for. So that responsibility that you have as being the contact person, as being the coffee maker, as being the front desk receptionist, whatever that thing is, you have to look at it as, I'm not doing this just for me, because if you only do it for a paycheck, or you only do it because, well, that's what they said I could do and I can only do so much more, then you're not really seeing the larger picture. Everyone has some kind of skill that can be applicable as a good team member, and you have to be willing to share that. After I left the first startup, we started another one, which was mobile live streaming to mobile devices in 2006. So I did Titan Tunes for about 5 years, and then left that, and then started up another startup, which was mobile live streaming. That was in about 2006 or so. Once again, the skills that I learned from one translated to the next, because I'm not saying I'm the best teammate. I have my faults. I know the places where I could be better at. I know the things that I am good at. It's important that that's something you recognize as well. My position in the next startup, which is M3X, was much more senior. I made my chops. I stopped washing dishes and started cooking the food, in the kitchen, and I got an upgrade. But my skills that I had, that I learned from doing the little things, helped me to translate into understanding what leadership means. Ultimately, a good team player is someone that is a leader. I say this because sometimes people consider the leaders only the people that have a quote unquote title. In the Caribbean, I'm Jamaican, by the way, so I'm not saying this in without understanding. In the Caribbean, titles are a thing that people look for. You're the manager of this, or you're this, or you're this. If you think years back, most parents, most Caribbean parents, you wanted your kids to be doctors or lawyers. Not just because of the money, but you could say, my kid is a doctor, my kid is a lawyer. Hardly any of them said, I want my kid to be a startup entrepreneur. I want them to do coding. I want them to be a software developer. You have to, that precept needs to be debunked. I'll say that right now. That precept, that thought that it's only if you have a title or if you have a position that then you have quote unquote worth or value, or you're someone important enough to be able to. Everyone has worth, everyone has value, everyone has knowledge. So keep that in mind when you're considering, how can I bring value to this organization? Your coding might be spot on. You might be able to read through it and find 5 lines of error that nobody else can see. But your attitude stinks, or you're timid and you don't want to speak up and tell someone, hey, you messed up in this code right here, because you don't want to ruffle anybody's feathers. A good team member, hey, look, I have the skills. I'm telling you what I have. I might not be perfect, but I'm just going to let you know, I think I found an issue here. Let's address it together. There's ways that you can build that relationship and that capacity so that now there's accountability. That was something huge that we developed in the M3X culture, is that accountability was really important for us to be able to bring people together and keep them on task, because everyone tends to stray. You have your own daily task when it comes to work. You have your personal things that you have going on outside of you, and all those things can tend to draw you away from your focus. Accountability as a team member is for yourself, but also for others, and being able to call out. People call it speaking truth to power. Being able to call out people and say, hey, look, I know I'm just the dishwasher, but I'm letting you know that this is the wrong thing, and we probably might want to reconsider how we're doing this. Or we probably should be doing this thing better because I see us having a problem here. You have to be able to speak up and let people know that there are issues, and also give praise too. A lot of times people want to wait till something happens. You could simply just, encourage, being an encouragement to other team members can bring real value to your organization, because it helps you build those relationships. You want your other team members to go hard with you from 6 in the afternoon till 6 in the morning because you have a deadline to get something done. Motivation doesn't come just from dollars. And if that's the first focus that you have, then you're probably doing the wrong thing. The motivation of dollars is great. Motivation of success to get something done as a team member with a team, that's even better. Your drive can't be simply because at the end there's a pot of gold. Yeah, at the end there's going to be a pot of gold. Absolutely. If you keep grinding at what you're doing and you get that project in, absolutely. But there's joy in success. Having a joyful heart and actually enjoying the success because you did it as a team, that builds a bond that makes your team stronger. Every individual within the team has their certain skill sets and their certain levels, right? You're going to pick a team based on, well, we need a coder for iOS, we need a coder for Android, and then we need somebody that's really good with web-based services. Something, maybe some Linux or Windows. We need someone that knows AWS. So maybe we can get 3 people. Yes. Maybe you can get 2 people. Yes. Maybe you can get 1 person that can do all those things. Though all those things are possible. But what's not possible is getting someone that you can trust and that you actually can build a relationship with. If you're going for a long-term goal under development, you have to surround yourself with individuals that can pursue the goal with you and that have the like-mindedness to be able to focus on the end goal. Your end goal has to be success, not financial success, but success. We finished the thing that we said we were going to do. We did it to the best of our ability. We're able to make the thing happen the way we said we were going to make it happen. And we all feel the passion for that particular thing. That's a lot more difficult than to just get somebody that has great skills. Because great skills, those things can be developed, but good relationships as a good team member, that's something that you can't teach. You have to just do it, right? That's the kind of thing where someone stays a little bit later, and we see that Silicon Valley culture of, you know, they order in pizzas and they have badminton tables and ping pong, and they do all kinds of stuff, and you know, they have fun slides in the office. Yes, it's a trick to keep people working longer, true, but you need an environment where people aren't just focused on pushing their career forward. Yes, they're going to push their thing. I am this guy and I have to be this, or I'm this woman and I need to be this. Yes, but you also have to realize that if you succeed, it's because the team succeeded, right? Somebody that can code, if you didn't develop Apple, if you are not Steve Jobs, well, then you're going to use Apple products to probably put your product together, probably test it on the platform. You're going to use Android. You didn't create it, but you're using it. Consider how all these various tools help your job, help you you move forward in getting your job done. It's actually no different than in looking at individuals as, hey, he's great at this. I can't take this sales call because I'm not so great at doing sales calls, but I know he's awesome at it. Can you please help me with this because I need this because the team needs it? That's success as a team versus success as an individual. Now, it's good that you learn these skills and being able to take the cold call. Sometimes you have to. I'm going to transition from my second startup to the third one I'm currently doing right now, and what I've taken from my first two and how I applied it to this third one. So in my first startup, I was the low man on the totem pole. Did a lot of grunt work, did it with joy because it was the team. Let's get it done for the team. My second startup, I had a more senior position, but I understood that just because I have a quote unquote senior position, it doesn't mean that I'm above anybody. Never think that if you start thinking like that, you're not going to really be able to bring people to your side when the chips are down and you actually need help, right? If you think about somebody that's just like, well, I'm the top and I'm above you guys and it's whatever. No, the real leader is the one that gets in there and does the grunt work still because it's important, and then teaches those other people, hey, here's what we need to do. Take a look at this. Here's conceptually what we're missing. Here's how we need to bring this right solution to market for this particular product, for this customer, whatever it might be. So the third startup that I have right now, we're probably 2 years young, and I have one other partner, so it's a much smaller size, and he's a close friend. He actually worked on the 2 previous startups I was in, but this one is just me and him now. And his managerial philosophy is very hands-off. And I picked up a lot of that in recent years from him. It doesn't mean not involved. It means he's given me enough space to let me trust myself to then go out and do. And that's a huge part. You have to be able to trust your team members, and likewise, they have to be able to trust you. And trust doesn't just happen. It's the hardest thing to get once it's lost, and it's easy to just give trust. I trust you. There you go. But once you lose that trust, it's very rare that you can really build it back. But he's given me enough space that, you know, he's my business partner. He's ex Motorola. He served on the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth committees, writing the protocols and the standards for those boards. He went to over 150, almost 200 countries, getting the standards passed. So we're talking South America, Central America, Europe, all the countries, Africa, Asia. He went there personally and worked on making sure that Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, those kind of standards have passed globally. The man's got the chops, but you never would know it. He's as humble can be, and it's something that I see that makes a good team member, because even if you have all the knowledge, you have all the experience, if your managerial style comes off that you're some kind of tyrant and someone has to do something because you say so, that's hardly the best way to get buy-in from a team. You want to build a recognition that we're moving forward in this direction together, and have people see that they're invested in the success. It's not because he has these wonderful skills that he's my business partner. It's because we get along well and he's a good person and I know him. Understand that the character of your team really makes a difference in that success that you can bring to the table. So your own personal character, how you conduct yourself, how you treat others, not because the light's on you and you want to shine from 9 to 5, and then from 6 to 8 you act like a jerk, but from 9 to 5 when you're back in the office, you're that great team member again. Sometimes you have to be the team member that even after a long day, someone calls you at 7 o'clock with a concern. Hey man, I don't think this is working well, or I don't know what's going on. With genuine sympathy, listen to them. Ask what's going on. See how you as a team member can go, hey, look, what can we do? Yeah, I know. You can vent to me about the boss, but don't you think he might be right? A lot of times when you have other team members gossiping and sharing what their frustrations are, that's a great opportunity to listen, first of all, but then, okay, well, what can we do? It's not about whether you're right or he's right. It's about what's right for us. And if you do need to be more on time, hey, maybe you should be more on time. You want me to pick you up tomorrow so you can get there on time? Maybe that's what it is. You see a team member struggling with whatever it might be, a personal issue or a work issue, take the time to really see what that might be, because their mental health, their family situation, their personal situation does affect you. They always say people are indispensable. Yes, there could always be someone that could come in and take your role and do your job. But if you're right in the middle of a project, how much longer will that take? How much longer will it take if your team member is out of pocket and can't be available to do what they need to do, and now you're waiting for them to come back, or they're gone and they've been either terminated or left out of frustration with the job, and now that role and that position is sitting on you and you're sitting there waiting to figure out how to make that happen. That happens often. Maybe what you could have done prior to that person leaving is care a little bit. See if there was something that you could have done. See if there's a way that you can support them. I know this is the talk about developers and understanding your value, but your value as a person to another person is the thing that builds organizations, is the thing that builds successful teams. Your relationship outside of the 9 to 5 has a reason, and those things can really help you strengthen your own personal skills and your goals. So to gotta digress and go back to a little bit my business partner, the decision making, it goes back and forth between me and him. We'll sit down, it'll be a quick conversation. Hey, here's what I think. If he disagrees, we'll have another conversation the next day. But there's no forcing, even with two people, there's no forcing the will onto each other, because that doesn't make either of us comfortable. If I said, okay, well, I just have to listen to you because I got to listen to you. And if he did the same, we're not considering what's good for both of us, because sometimes I can be wrong and sometimes he can be wrong, or sometimes both of us can be wrong. And we have to be considerate that you might have a certain viewpoint, you might have a certain opinion on how you'd like to proceed forward with a particular aspect of a project, a particular value that you're trying to drive within the deliverables. And if everyone isn't on the same accord, what ends up happening is that misinterpretation rules the day. People will think, oh, well, I thought you meant this, or I thought you meant that. You have to understand that the communication, just because you said words to somebody, you sent them the email, communication, even now, is still it's still better done face to face, because that face to face relationship that you can have gives more value, because you can interact with people in such a way that you can actually understand how you can help and support them as a good team member. One thing I'd like to just stop and pause in here and just kind of think about is that we always need to keep learning. No one is really given everything, and even the most brilliant person in Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, always kept learning. They always kept reading. They always kept trying to push themselves forward and improve not just their knowledge, but their personal skills. A lot of times we consider that collaboration is about, well, I'm going to get something and maybe you get something, but whatever. The best collaborative ventures work when you actually have a synergy. You actually have a relationship with another company or entity that gives value to both sides. I recently attended Black Tech Week in Miami, and if any of you do get a chance and you're going to be in the Miami area next year, Black Tech Week is awesome. It's a really great event. They're actually doing a national tour right now. I think they're in Louisiana. They just came from New York, I believe. And they're awesome. They're a really great organization. And I met a gentleman that I'm currently working with on technology. He has a different technology than mine, but because I took the opportunity to listen, to learn, to actually interact with him, to speak with him, and then we had a good personal relationship, I've been collaborating with him on integrating his technology and his solution into what we're doing now, because I don't have all the answers. I think what I have is really great. We put a lot of work into it, a lot of time. I think it's dope, but that's not for me to simply go, look, I believe it's great. Everyone else should believe it's great. It's, wait, there's an opportunity for me to find more value in what I've created. And by leveraging his technology, I can now bring more customers to me and make what I'm doing more effective on a stronger marketing basis, because I needed that. And it just so happened he had something that I said, wow, that is a perfectly awesome fit for what I'm doing. Let's talk. That's how interactions and collaborations work. It's a reason why startup spaces are hot, right? You have co-working spaces with this particular company that's doing water filtration technology, and this particular company that's doing a new food growing method. Well, gee, if they were in two separate places, they probably would have never interacted until way down the line, or at all. But because they happen to be in the same proximity, oh, wait, you guys do water filtration? Oh, yeah, we do food growing in small spaces. Maybe there's something that we can do. That's really what the tech industry and tech scene is about. It's a communal environment that really should support growth and development, not just from the tech side, but from the personal side, because you have to be able to now take what you guys were doing with water filtration and take what you guys are doing with your plants and your agriculture products and find a synergy that you can both win with. You can go, hey, look, I'm going to be selling this into these 10 different markets. If we can find a way to get your water filtration product into this and have it, well, let's sell it with it. I met a gentleman at Emerge, the Emerge show. He was IBM, and he does consulting for IBM, an older gentleman. And he just dropped some knowledge on me that I didn't ask for, but I was more than willing to take because I was listening. You have to listen to be able to bring new ideas, new ventures, new ways, new concepts into your head, and then figure out how to bring that to your team. But you have to be listening. So our product was mainly focused on the transportation, hospitality side. Hotels are a piece of what we do. And I gave him the whole pitch. Here you go. We do this, da, 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 da. And he said, okay, now bring that back. Now, here's my opinion from being outside. I suggest that you really focus on the hotels because really the hotels are the center of the whole thing. I started outside of the hotels and said, okay, well, we're going to get people to the hotels and we have all these other things that we can do. But hotels was a small piece of it. It wasn't really my main focus. After speaking with him and understanding where he was coming from, because he got what we were doing pretty quickly, but he said, I think you really should be doing this. He wasn't on my team. He didn't have any affiliation to me, so he didn't have to share that knowledge with me, but he did, and I listened. And I took that to heart and said, okay, you know what? I'm going to start focusing on this particular part of the product so that we can really show the value and demonstrate the value to the hotel industry on why this is a good product for the hotel industry. Because I hadn't necessarily made that the point of which I was trying to attack it. And after speaking with him, I said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and make that focus and focus on what the value is to a hotel and understand how it would mean to them. I've sent him emails and he's responded back since then. But you can get collaboration simply through a conversation and understanding what you're doing, but share it. Not because you're scared. Now, you don't tell everybody everything, right? I'm not saying you divulge all your trade secrets, but like I mentioned, as a good team player, you've got to share. And you've got to be willing to listen to other people and have whatever their opinion might be, good, bad, or ugly. You've got to take it because we have ugly truths about ourselves, right? There's things that we everyone, nobody's perfect. So I'm saying we as everyone, we have to work on, and you have to be willing to hear it from other people when they say, hey, you know what? I hear you, but you're talking down to me. Oh, wow. Okay. I'd hear that from a customer. And they didn't say it like in those words, but I realized that I wasn't trying to talk down to somebody as I was trying to explain our platform or what we do, but it came across that way. And I had to modify how I spoke and understand that it wasn't them coming at me, but it was time for me to be able to learn to go, hey, you know what? I need to maybe do this a little bit differently. I need to be a little bit more mindful of how I say things. I'm a mad procrastinator, super bad sometimes. Sometimes I'm on it and I'll be up till 3 a.m. and then sometimes I'll be like, send an email today, and I'm like, I'll get to it, and I send the email like right at the last second today, like at 4:59. Send it today before 5, and I'll send it myself. And I'd like my team members to hold me accountable because I have to be willing to I have to seek accountability. You have to ask that of your team members as well. Accountability helps you build those relationships and helps you build that ability for your team to actually work better. You can't be mad at somebody if they're holding you accountable and you hold them accountable. You can be mad at someone if you're always holding them accountable and you're always holding them accountable and you're always holding them accountable, then you can be mad. But you can't be mad if you're both holding each other accountable. That goes back to my introduction with my business partner currently, Rob, is that we hold each other accountable. There'll be times he'll be on me. Hey, you got to get on this. Same goes back the other way. But that's the best way that a team works, is that both sides want to succeed and then you're not scared of someone saying, hey, you could do this better, or you're doing it wrong, or hey, we gotta move faster. Because ultimately, time is always against you. Innovation only lasts for so long, and your speed to market with the thing that you're developing is really based on, did you get there first or did you get there last? You never want to be always the first, but you definitely don't want to be the last. and your speed to market really, really affects how people perceive what your product is and how you come across in solving people's problems when it comes to outside of your company. But internally, that everyday grind of working and putting things together and making your team move is a constant. And you have to think in human terms of, they're people just like me. I see their value. I might not like sometimes how this particular teammate talks to people. I'll work with them, and maybe I will talk to him about how he perceives and talks to other people, but he's still my teammate because we all need to succeed. And sometimes you just got to put up with people that are jerks, right? That's a reality as well. But it doesn't mean that you have to entertain it. A good teammate's like, hey, you're a jerk. I'll work with you. We can do stuff, but you're really jerky to people because you come off as, Mr. Know-it-all. You come off as this. You come off as that, and that's able to speak real with each other is a huge piece, because when you're willing to tell someone the truth, when you're willing to be open with someone and not to hurt them, but to say, hey, look, I think we can improve on this as a team. I think this is something that we can do as a team. That changes how it's perceived and how you can come across in being able to say, hey, look, we're a team. I'm here for you. You're here for me. But I know there's things you got to work on. There's things I got to work on. Hold me accountable. I'll hold you accountable so that we can be successful.
Yeah.
I'll wrap it up real quick because I just apologize. I could talk forever, but
no. Well, no, actually, you have done some points.
So your question?
Yeah. No, I said you hit on some points that we need to really focus on, and one was the accountability. Being accountable, having that somebody to be accountable for, and also to your value, your worth. A lot of people, you mentioned earlier about their value, they don't see the value. They feel like I am not worth it. So, and also to follow-ups. A lot of people don't follow up with their team members. They expect if I say do something, it will get done, and nobody follows up until it's like crunch time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The everyday interaction that people have can sometimes go blind. It's like, well, they're here and I saw them, and then yes, I believe they're going to do it. I'm gonna send them an email. Sure, you can send the email. Have the conversation, because you're going to get instant feedback from someone when you have that conversation. So I sent you that thing. What's your feedback? Talk to me about it. Let me know. Because if I sent you the wrong information, I'll go change it right now. But if you're somehow stuck in the weeds and doing something else, let me know so that I can either help you get out of it so that we can keep this thing moving at a pace that it needs to go.
Yeah, and also to communication. In the earlier session, they mentioned a part of communication in regards to the tech. We're Caribbean developers, so the developers, and when they start to talk more tech to the person who is non-technical, that lost in transition there. So they need we need to know how to as the guy earlier in the session, he mentioned that we need to break it down to like a 5-year-old could understand. So communication, we need to know how to communicate more with each other. I think we don't communicate enough, and that's where Caribbean Developer Week here is, where we're trying to get the community to come out and be sharing and being able to communicate with each other.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with that, because it's something that so within Fleet Fair, I've had to take off the development hat and start putting on the sales hat, and I had to stop speaking tech, and I'm only just starting to get that now. It's only just starting to really like sink in, and I'm able to then communicate in a way to say, hey, customer, tell me about your pain points. Okay, understand their pain points, and then go, okay, here's how what we do can help you with X in your company. And it's easy to just, because I didn't want to be the sales guy, but it's like, okay, got to be the sales guy now. And
Well,
it was
yeah,
a skill you had to
yeah.
develop.
Yeah, because even in the tech industry, they expect you to have many hats because you end up doing sales, marketing, and that is like out of your comfort zone. But I
Yeah.
tell people it's just better to get that, just have a basic understanding. Don't be that you're the expert in marketing and expert in sales when it's not really your main focus, but at least have that understanding and way. And again, it comes back again to communication, being able to communicate well with each other.
No, yeah, no, that's 100% effective communication when it comes to your customers, right? If you can't communicate internally with your team, boy, you're talking about now going out to customers and then trying to solve their problems, or a customer calls in and says, hey, look, I've got an issue, and that other guy isn't there, and you have to take that call, and people will grudgingly do it, but it should be a skill that you have, even if you're not the best, quote unquote. You still have to be able to have those skills, because you do represent your organization or your business partner, right? There's just two of you, and she's out. Well, they always go to her, and you default go, well, she's the salesperson, so I'm going to give all the sales stuff to her. She's sick. What are you going to do? Not take the sale? Not take the call from the customer? No, you have to have that little bag of skills that you can then pull out and go, look, I might not be the best, but I'm going to do it because this is what the team needs, and I'll put my all into it, right? Having that joyful heart, even with a thing you're scared to death for, you got to go for it.
Yeah, you go for it, and then every time you try and every time you do it, it will get better at it until you get more confident. you know,
Yeah, I mean, and that's what
this makes perfect.
yeah, that's why I mentioned about continuing to learn, because you might have your first presentation that you like, hey, here's what we're doing, and here's how great it is, and it's a flop. It doesn't mean that you're a flop. It just that means you didn't convey the message in a strong enough way that they could absorb it and take it with them. So guess what? Go back and work on it.
Yeah, and this is also where the team will come into play, where you have the teaching and the learning. One can teach and one can learn, and vice versa.
Yeah, I agree 100%. That has to be. That's why I know I said it several times, but everyone has some kind of skills, and so you might be your presentations might be flopping, and that's why you as the sales guy aren't really getting out there. And then you have somebody that they have performance skills, right? They did amateur theater, or they're a musician, right? Musicians are really great about that because they know how it is to stand on stage. They know how it is to command a crowd. That's a skill. It's a direct skill you can translate and use to, I need to get these customers to be excited about what I'm doing. Show me how I should do this. Learn from them.
Yeah, and then you mentioned earlier, you mentioned that we need to be able to share, listen, and also take it. So you need to be able to take the little criticisms. It may not, it's not that they're trying to be bad, but they're just telling as it is, and we need to be able to accept that.
And that's hard. That is hard. No one likes to hear. I know I don't, but like, it's important. Like, you're not going to grow if you don't get that constructive criticism and actually take it. And you might get constructive criticism, but if you don't really take it and absorb it and not personalize it, then you can grow from there. But if you're just like, well, whatever, forget you don't like what I do, you're a hater, okay. See how much you grow then.
Yeah, that is so true. And we're almost out of time, but you mentioned two things, and I would like you to, if you could give us some more information on Black Tech Week. And
Yes.
also you mentioned co-working spaces. Well, I'm talking based on in Trinidad. We have a few co-working spaces, but they are far and in between. Could you explain how does that work where you're from, the co-working space? Explain the,
So
I know there are different types of co-working spaces, and we're talking more the ones in relations to the technology and development.
absolutely. So co-working spaces tend to be, you have a membership for the building. And sometimes that membership will get you a desk. Sometimes that membership will get you an office space, or several office spaces, depending on how large of a team you have. It lets you have a dedicated spot to work in and meet in, collaborate together, be with other people that are in the tech field. The most important thing that you can do in tech is not stay isolated. It does not help you when you're in your own little pocket and you're not mingling and mixing. I'm not saying you go and give your secrets away to everybody and, hey, here's everything we're doing, but don't be afraid to share. And so those co-working spaces allow people to share. It allows people to do their work, then also interact with other people that are techie, that, you know, might want to sit down and play Fortnite with them, that might want a game of chess, that might want to go out to the food truck in the afternoon and just talk about the soccer game or whatever, and then get back to work. But it brings more of that collaborative environment together. Even if it's not your team, it's other teams of people, you get a chance to work with those people. So usually here in the US, sometimes it's maybe $99 and up a month. Some are less, some are like 25, some can be 75. The price ranges from kind of wildly from place to place, but it just lets you get in. It allows you to work, and then it gives you a central spot where you can always go back to, because being in the right environment really helps you get work done. You know, you can work from anywhere if you want to, but if the dog's barking in the background and the baby's crying and 10 different things from Sunday are distracting you, you'll be less effective in your work. So co-working spaces let you put yourself in that environment where you're not renting a whole building just to do your startup. It's a manageable cost. And then you come along collaborative experiences with, oh, wait, you guys are doing blockchain. You know, we're not doing blockchain, but we could use some blockchain. Tell us about what you guys are doing. Boy, you know, that'd be really interesting. How about we collaborate? Can we try something together? And you get to try stuff. Well, that didn't work, but let's try it again. What about this? What about this? You get to do experiments in that environment that you would never be able to do, because it'd be, now I got to drive to their office and they got to drive to my office. And, you know, so that's the benefit of having those co-working spaces. And I think, you know, hopefully those things really start popping up in the Caribbean more, because I'm adamant about the strength.
They're few and far in between. You know, they come, they go. We have a question. And the question is, can you give some advice on how you can clearly illustrate the part you play in a project without coming across as an I person? And yeah,
we.
Yeah.
We. So start with the we first. Instead of saying I, start with the we. So our goals are this. We are trying to do this. I do this. You can still say I, but the I comes way after the our and the we. The ownership of what you're trying to get done has to be you're looking far down the lane. My responsibilities are, right? My responsibility for getting this and this and this is this. That's where the accountability and taking ownership, because that's evident. A lot of times people that, you know, if you figure out something that doesn't necessarily want to take ownership of the good and the bad, you know, they'll be the person that doesn't want to take the ownership of the bad usually wants to steal the ownership of the good, right?
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, I did that. And it's like, no, where were you? You weren't there. I was there. But your value, and this, you know, to go back to the whole part of your value is, as a team player, the things that you do become evident with the work that you take on, and you have the advocacy of other people that say, yeah, she did that, right? Because if you don't want to say I, other people will say he or she, because they see the thing that you're doing, because you're saying, look, I'm accountable for the work I have. I help other people. And by helping other people, you're now getting, you're getting that buy-in from other team members that say, yeah, they're on top of their job. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And I vouch for that work that they've presented, because they haven't wavered in the thing that they said they were going to do. People see them, you know,
Okay. The person said they missed the first part. So the first part of that question was actually a two-part question. You always hear the employers are looking for we people, team players, as opposed to I people. This is one of the things employers look for, especially in your resume. And then the question was, can you give some advice?
Okay, you
So that
it's
was
support.
part of the question.
No problem. So it's the support piece. What have you done to help other people? Right? How are you an empathetic enough person? How have you helped team members succeed? Right? Do you do other things outside of what you just do when it comes to work that shows that you have um, you you demonstrate those skills, right? Do you volunteer to help to teach kids to code? Oh, that's being kind of selfless. That seems to be a we trait versus an I trait, right? That's what people would want to see. And if you speak about yourself in that interview, speak about the we part of you, right? Our team developed this, or myself and the manager were responsible for X, Y, and Z, right? No one is just the one pillar by themselves doing everything and the only person. There's other people in the organization. So show how your work that you contribute to contributes to other success as well. Not just your success, but the success of everybody else that's part of that project or that organization.
Okay, and we have, well, one more question, and then um, can you talk a little bit about Fleet Flare, and then
Yes.
also unwrapped up with the Black Week, so we at least we know more
Oh yeah,
about.
Black Tech Week is awesome. I'll give you that. But um,
Yeah, but Fleet Flare, if you could give us a
so
little.
FleetFare is an on-demand platform for hospitality, transportation, and on-demand services. So it's web-based software that manages various relationships, assets, and products. And then we have an iOS uh, and Android software for guests to be able to request a transfer, book an event, or grab various on-demand services that are local. The idea behind the platform is that the collaboration between industries and companies is now digital. We take care of the payment piece as well. So scheduling and payment are all part of the overall umbrella. I, as a tour operator, can work with hotel, the Elegant Hotel W, and they can book me to take their guests on tours and trips. And the guest doesn't have to worry about stopping at the ATM to get money. They can book the trip, they can pay all digitally, and now I, as an operator, can now make more money because I'm getting more bookings. Often we still see cabs sit at airports waiting for people to come out of the airport. It's kind of old. It's 2018. Shouldn't be happening. It still happens. I understand. But our platform is to interconnect those relationships when it comes to tourism, hospitality, into a digital platform that they now can all collaborate together. So I'm a small hotel. I don't have a driver for my guests. I now can book that digitally. I don't have to pick up the phone and keep calling the driver to see if he's on time. That booking is digital. I can see through the software where the driver is. The guest can as well. They can pay digitally. And once that relationship's built, that guest is going to book that driver again to take them around the town because they know that driver. They met them before. So that's the goal of the platform, is to bring economies of scale in a digital platform. So I don't like to say their name, but consider it like Uber, but it's their content, their relationships, their resources. We're just providing the software that allows them to build that capacity.
Okay. All right. Well, I think our time is upon us, guys. Thank you very much, Ainsworth, for this presentation. It was very informative. And I was told not to forget Black Tech Week. Yeah, the plug
Black
for
Tech,
Black Tech.
I will send you some information about it so you can help
Yeah,
spread
we could.
it out. So
Yeah,
Black Tech Week it's out of Miami and Overtown, and it brings startups, entrepreneurs from around the country. It's been going on for about 4 years now. This year was my first year. It was in my backyard. I never went to it. And I just went to this 4th year, and it was fantastic. Most of the tech conferences I've been to have not been like Black Tech Week. And going to Black Tech Week was really empowering because you saw a lot of smart, strong Black people in technology that are doing really wonderful things, and it really gave me a lot of drive and inspired me to think like I'm not the only one, because a lot of conferences I was the quote unquote only one, you know. To see a whole room full of Black people was like, was awesome. And Bobby Seale, the Black Panther, spoke at the this last one, which was awesome too, because his story about how, because he was former Army. I know it's going long, but he was in the Air Force, and he did math and technology, and he showed how knowing math, knowing numbers and technology, and being adamant about training people can help lift people up. So, you know, Black Tech Week is a really awesome thing. I'll share that information with you so you can check it out.
Okay. Okay, thank you again. And when you share the information, I'll also put it in the comments so persons can actually view it. Thank you again. Thanks you all for listening in, and see you guys later on this evening. We have just a second. Let me be like everyone else to find my calendar of events for, I believe we have, it's just a sec, people. Un momento. Yes, later on this evening we have PWAs, the next generation of web with Nicholas Mendez, and that will be at 5 to 6 this evening. So I'll see you guys there. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay.